So what's your take? What's Destiny doing wrong?
He's not doing anything wrong, and this is my big issue with all the Destiny fans in my comments getting really mad at me, is because I think Destiny's really good at what he does, but I literally just hear him talking about wanting to run a Democratic federal campaign for U.S. Congress, at least run their ground game, and I think to myself, wow, if he made a couple small adjustments, that might be possible for him to actually help somewhere. But he's completely unwilling to do these compromises. It's not even a huge compromise. It's literally just like don't say the most abhorrent stuff online. These very slight changes. He got ousted from a small mayoral campaign in Nebraska, in Omaha, Nebraska, and people were messaging me like that, like as if I didn't know that. I do know that, and even with the climate after Trump, they're not going to want someone who says, who makes constant jokes about like Palestinians dying and make jokes about like the MAGA supporter being killed at the rally. Those kind of jokes are great for what Destiny does. You going and being a disruptor, going on podcasts. I think Destiny's fantastic in those areas because he really does go in and he goes really aggressive. He goes hard. I think he's needed on the online for those things. But my advice in that video is pretty much just like, hey, Destiny and Destiny fans, you guys are very logic positioned, and the idea that you'd say something in a popular way, and I think this is really the big issue. The idea that they would say something in a popular way and give up any point of the logical argument is so evil to them. They would not be effective in politics because a lot of politics is saying something that is like 90% true in a popular sounding way, not really having a very long debate. And someone recommended a video to me about Destiny's political philosophy, and it was 4 hours long. And I'm like, you're kind of proving my point. If you need 4 hours to debate someone, there's an area for that on the internet. But yeah, it's just a lot more focused energy is going to be needed if he wants to work officially with like a DNC campaign. Is my entire thing.
No, for sure. Like, and I can certainly respect that argument. The one bit of pushback I would, or 2 points of pushback that I would give, or 2 points of contention. One, I know he's been able to do this before. Like, I think he was doing like the ground game in Georgia. I think when like he had the runoffs in 2020, and I think he was able to be, at least somewhat politically effective and knocking on doors and being able to um, being able to make those arguments in a way that weren't going to like alienate people. But I guess you know
It's not
certainly
about
he
the
might have
arguments. It's about him wanting, like
changed
this
some
time
things.
around, he wants official ties. Like that's the big point. Is he wants to have like an official. He said he's working with actual contacts to be given a campaign for his people to focus on. Before it was just like he was an outside organization using base canvassing rules. If you bring any organization in, they'll give you these rules on how to properly canvass. But he wants to officially work with a campaign, is what he at least was saying. Unless if they're just telling him, we're going to give you a targeted campaign, or he wants a targeted campaign to do the same thing as he did in Georgia, then sure, that's fine. But
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. The other bit I might want to get your take on is, and maybe you think the Destiny is just to a particular extreme on this, but like I think that Democrats for years have been way too unwilling to get like really critical of individuals they disagree with. I mean, we've like, and even when they did so, it was like in kind of the worst way possible, and they didn't really respond well to the criticism they got. And I'm thinking like basket of deplorables from Hillary, and um, I don't know if it was something similar. It was the Joe Biden thing with like the right after the Madison Square Garden rally with Biden saying, "Oh, look at us, like the only trash I'm seeing is from supporters," or something like that. And I'm
mm,
like, I don't like necessarily the idea of like keeling over too quickly in those kinds of criticisms. I think that there's room to balance, and actually say like, hey, look, you can actually get out and say, look, this is unacceptable behavior, and even be a little bit mean about it. So I don't know, like when Destiny comes out and says like, has the persona he does, has the criticisms that he gives, and actually gives good explanations for like the comparator thing, where he's like, hey, at face value, no, I don't, wish any ill will towards this guy, but I'm not going to listen to the pearl clutching of Republicans when they didn't police their own behavior for like the Paul Pelosi thing. And I think I think it's gonna, if Destiny's gonna come out and in a campaign say, "Hey, this is like we're gonna tat for all the tits that we're getting." Sorry, he was that was the Alex whatever, Cosmic Skeptic or whatever
Hmm.
um, interview that he did. Yeah, I think that if someone's actually gonna be willing to be a bit of a firebrand, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think I put on my thumbnail he needs more self-control because when he wants to be a gamer and use gamer language, and if he's gonna put up memes where I think he put something like no better combination for a Trump rally and it was like bullets and like a firefighter or something. It was a crazy, crazy provocative tweet. And I know Destiny fans will be like, well, he does provocative tweets all the time. I'm not gonna tell him to stop being mean. I think he should keep being mean, but he's hurting his own cause if he's going to be doing things that against the grain of, any normal American, including Democrats. Although Democrats probably would say, we don't really care about this that much. It happened. Trump survived. But still, someone who was a volunteer firefighter, I'm pretty sure, who got killed as a result of a near assassination of a former U.S. president, that is extremely toxic. And making jokes about Palestinians dying, I know Destiny's community would roast me for that as well, but he has done that very much. I would literally just say, keep being mean, but you're hindering your own effectiveness because you're unwilling to take this turn to be even slightly more appropriate. Because I'm fine using a couple really bad words, but you're just not picking your spots very well. And Destiny is very unwilling, and I've seen this before, and that's what my debate was about. As you said you saw it. It was essentially about if you're able to do popular messaging without being extremely, extremely, excruciatingly detailed and logic about it, or like logic debate bro-ish about it. And sometimes you need a little bit of Kyle Kalinske. Just go and say something that sounds popular. That's what people want, and we know that. And if you want to be effective politically, Destiny has said he knows this, but still he's unwilling to do it. He's going to do 6-hour streams instead. Which, okay, if that's his part of the internet, great. If he's going to do podcast, great. But if we're going to have like a commitment to working with like Brian Tyler Cohen, in the tweet from that video for Katie Porter, the Katie Porter tweet was originally shared by Brian Tyler Cohen, and Destiny calls Brian Tyler Cohen an idiot in that video. And he's better now for sure. But yeah, just being able to engage in politics means having a balance, I guess.
Do you think that maybe like the criticism could be that you say that he can do this and he has done this in the past. He's been able to shore up his language a little bit, shore up his style a little bit when the situation called for it. Do you think that maybe he just doesn't have like an incentive right now? I could see that argument. It's like you know
Maybe.
he's not in the situation right now. I mean, I'm not
I have a
again.
good
I'm
comparison. I have
not
a
saying
really
I'm
good
not saying your
comparison I just thought
criticism
of.
is incorrect. Your criticism is absolutely valid.
I
I'm
have a great
not
comparison
disagreeing with
too
your.
with what just happened, by the way, with the CEO being assassinated. We are seeing lefties on Twitter right now, the extremely crazy, only the craziest communist, socialist, like I want the system to burn to the ground. Only those lefties are making severe jokes about, wow, this person died, haha, this is funny, claim denied, whatever. Only those people are making those extreme jokes. And I see people like Kyle Kalinske saying like, oh, although it's not condoning violence. I'm not going to cry over this CEO dying. Meanwhile, Destiny, when the MAGA thing happened with Corey being killed during an attempted assassination, Destiny was the version of the crazy lefty Twitter radical. He was the liberal version of that. And I don't think that's good in any scenario for any ideology, including for liberals or centrists or center, whatever Destiny's political ideology is. Destiny is that crazy Twitter communist to people when he says stuff like that. And I think maybe saying it to him like that could help, maybe, but it's the same justification people are using right now for why he said that about Corey. But literally just make the argument like regular progressives are making about people are indifferent about this because there's certain negative things tied to it. Make that argument. You don't have to make the crazy communist memes about like it's actually good this happened or make a bunch of really really edgy jokes when we know we're in an era of clips. We know we're in a clip era. Like, why are you putting yourself in a position to lose?
So maybe I feel like I lost the criticism a little bit. So you're saying that so Destiny is getting that rap from the right, and so he should Short up.
No, just in general, that does not look good if you want to engage with normal Democratic voters. Like that tweet alone, if he brings 200 people, like if he brought 200 people to canvass for me, it would probably be a negative because he's made those comments very publicly in the same way that it'd be a negative for a socialist to say it's good to kill CEOs, even as a joke.
So
Like he's being very sloppy about it, like someone just said.
okay,
Like being
he's
mean and
being
being aggressive, you have to be responsible as well, even if you're being irresponsible. Like it's like a controlled rage, I guess.
yeah. No, I can see that, and I think the common adage is that there's basically two people living inside his brain. There's what Mr. Benelli, or yeah, Mr. Benelli and Nebraska Steve. I think there might be time. Like I think the comparator situation might have been one of those times. And I think everybody was kind of joking about it in his community. Was that you know he he maybe was having one of those Nebraska Steve moments when he was saying that, but he was a bit measured when he was talking about like, hey, at the end of the day, yeah, I understand that we don't want anybody to be losing their life at like a political rally, even for someone we disagree with. But like he was specifically talking about he doesn't want to show sympathy, and he got raked over the coals for it. But he hasn't really lost his access to the current avenues that we have. I mean, I guess you could say like, hey, if he was just staying as like a political pundit and still talking to people who are in like the political mainstream, then he wouldn't really need to change. But if your criticism is just that like he needs to change if he wants to be effective in spaces where it's like actual campaigning going on, then I mean I can see that criticism just fine.
Yeah, and I'm having Destiny fans like DM me and comment under my video saying that I'm a pampered college kid who knows nothing about real life politics. Meanwhile, I live in a 60% Republican, 40% Democratic district or something like that. And I've been a part of and have seen on the ground very clearly what these campaigns operate in, and the reality of that. And I'm trying to give some type of suggestion to say, hey, if you want to make this adjustment someday, these things stick in people's minds. And if your explanation for your values takes an hour to tell, or takes even 10 minutes to tell, if you don't have a 30-second way, like an elevator pitch for what you believe, why you believe it, in a way that an elected, I feel like it'd be a fun panel idea, by the way. It'd be a fun panel if we had not a debate, but like a competition. If we had like Destiny and I don't know, like David Pac-Man, he wouldn't do it, but like a bunch of these different commentators, if we were asking them questions in like a Democratic primary, if they can give their best example of what they think would be effective rhetoric, if they have a minute to speak, if you had only 60 seconds to speak, how would you talk about this topic in a way? It'd be a good exercise too. How would you talk about this topic in a way that can appeal to voters? I would love to hear that because right now, it's a lot of either yelling and saying, "Wow, Trump's stupid. I can't believe he doesn't understand this." And if it's not that, it's going really deep into it and having a 3-hour conversation.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting way to break down like, hey, if you want to be politically efficacious, like get a bunch of people to basically, give their ideas of what the best way to do that would be. I guess I just wonder like how how might we still say like at the end of the day like, hey, we don't want to be doing this because we feel like we want to go back to like the decorum mindset, like the norms mindset. I just don't think that that's been politically, effective for us to do.
Well, decorum would be like Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania saying that Corey was an amazing patriot and servant to our community. And it's very sad that this happened. That's decorum as a Democrat. What I'm saying is don't appear to outsiders like Destiny's community when they share memes like this appear to outsiders, including Democrats, like Groypers appear to Republicans, and I don't know if they know that. And it works for Destiny himself going on podcasts because he is more measured. He talks in 2 or 3 hours. He gives clear explanations for what he believes. But his fans as well. And maybe he can just, but again, it's like, okay, if you're going to be the internet guy who goes on these podcasts and debates and your community is going to be the opposite trolls and the opposing view online to like the Groypers or whatever, that's great. But there's no way he can ever make an organization like, I don't know, that to really activate people. And we know, for example, we know for a fact Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes and all these conservatives lie through their teeth constantly. So they're able to manipulate propaganda and messaging like right away on everything. Um, but yeah, I think the elevator pitch thing is a good exercise because it would force everyone to make their like I don't know how do you sound I don't know how you sound. Ah, God. Destiny stays away from the statements. You know how Kyle Kalinske would be like, it's very clear in this system, those who are wealthy want to keep poor people and working class people in this position. So they use money in the process to manipulate it. And our mission is we're going to make sure the government's less corrupt so it serves the people more. I feel like just saying that alone would never be enough for Destiny. He would never be able to say something like that. He would feel like he's betraying his value system. He's betraying everything he knows and loves. Like I've never seen, and he goes against that thinking like, oh, there's any type of corrupt elite controlling anything. And you don't even need to say that. I've never heard Destiny make an argument that's appealing to that narrative and like theoretically or just like giving people a story of how we can, I don't know, appeal to populism without being a populist.
I mean, do you think that populism is like a foregone conclusion for the Democratic Party? Like, do we need to be engaging in like at least in like we can approach it the same way without going like inherently populist? Like, if we're just saying if you're saying like just focusing on like the the majority of Americans, the workers of the country, being the main focus without necessarily going after this like corrupt elite narrative. Like, do you think that's possible, or do we have to bring up the fact that this is like a problem?
I think
I'm
right
honestly curious.
now
I
we're
probably
being forced to. I think we're being forced to. I think we need to adjust and we
yeah.
need to make major reforms. And with Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, now engaging in every foreign policy conversation as a private citizen with the elected U.S. president, after the U.S. president announces that Elon Musk bought his way into the White House, we are at the pinnacle of. It's almost hilarious to say to someone like, "Oh, I don't know if money is that big of a role in politics because there's not like a certain policy that can pass." I want to hear Destiny's opinion on
Did,
that again because he had said that before.
well, he said
But
that like two
yeah,
years ago. Yeah, I know
yeah,
it's
I
one
want
of
to
the
hear his
first
new
things you
opinion
brought
on
up here.
that.
Yeah, I think
I'm like,
he probably
mm,
would say that there's a bit more influence than maybe he was probably underplaying it at the time.
yeah,
Again,
but the
I
median
can't speak for him,
voter,
but
and he's complaining about the median voter right now. The median voter wants to hear, and it's true. It's getting to the point where it's so irrefutable, where it's like these special interest groups are having a stranglehold on what used to be our government and institutions. And you should be able to have like a populist narrative from the perspective of an institutionalist liberal because our institutions are being torn apart. Trump is saying he's going to do like blatantly unconstitutional things on a daily basis. We should be able to be very aggressive about that with also I guess he's against narrative building.
yeah,
I would probably say
yeah.
like
But
building a
do you
narrative
think
around
that
it.
the American people also, at least like even on the Democratic side, do you think they probably want to hear at least maybe not as edge lord of a level that Destiny gets to, but do you think that people maybe want to hear some honest criticism and not pulling punches from the Democrats? I think for I'm trying to think back if there was like a particular situation where the the attacks were very pointed, and I'm not talking about like the Biden comment or anything like that, or the I don't know, like maybe his speech where he was saying like not all MAGA, but the ones that are the most MAGA are like actual like authoritarians, and I don't think that went over particularly poorly with the American people, at least the majority of them. Like they certainly did with Trump's most ardent supporters, but they can bitch and moan for all I care. I mean, one of the things that people are saying is that Democrats just don't talk to the American people very well, and a lot of times if you're going to levy these kinds of criticisms, it has to be in a way that's maybe a bit more of like how how the people would criticize them. You don't get very like parliamentarian with the way that you, if you know what I mean, and the way that you
Yeah, but
criticize
if
these
you
groups.
go
You
to
say
a yeah,
these guys are stealing from your pockets. They are literally setting you against each other and robbing you blind, and then they're buying their way into government. Like look at yeah, Elon
yeah, we
Musk
need
is
to say
buying
that
his
more.
way into
Yeah,
government. Yeah, like what? And I mean, even getting a little bit more targeted. It's like okay, Republicans talk a big game about being pro America. Like how un American is it to have a foreigner come in and essentially take over the executive branch, or at least have like such a major voice in the executive branch. Now I know he's a naturalized American citizen,
And he's
but
white, so
they
no one
clear they,
cares.
they clearly don't clearly don't give a shit about that for
No,
any
if he
other
was not
naturalized
white, they
citizen.
probably would care. To be honest,
Yeah,
being white definitely
well, they
helps
don't care
Elon Musk
about.
in that
Well,
conversation.
no, Vivek was. I think Vivek was born here.
Yeah, but also Vivek is like the stereotypical, like, he listens to what we all say and he's going to follow the capital class in every situation. And he's a multi-billionaire as well. But yeah, I mean, and just in general, I, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I just think there's so much hostility towards the message that the working class really loves. Like, for example, um, I hear Destiny say a lot about not attacking Democrats. Like we need commentators who are not going to be anti-Democrat. But one of the main policies that Kamala had that got me the ability to get voters out for her, and I bring up my friend all the time. It's price gouging. Like he never voted before, never voted in his life. He said he never would, but she gave a speech about price gouging, and that's when he said, "I'm going to vote for the first time. I'm going to vote for Kamala, and I'm going to vote for the first woman president." So price gouging is something that got torn apart because it wasn't logical enough. But just the concept of it does seem like there's a system where people, rich people in general, have too much
How do you
control
mean it
and they're
got?
manipulating things.
How, how do you think it got torn apart? Like, what do you mean by it got torn
Like
apart?
this is a stupid
Like it.
policy. How would they actually implement it? Those questions were the first thing that was
Uh,
said in Destiny's community. I could probably find a video of him critiquing it, and it's like that's fine, but also that's kind of against the narrative that we need to build. Because you probably should just say, you know what? Yeah, it's a certain policy, but it's more of just like a lead into what we're going to be focusing on. I don't know how it would be implemented. Even when they talk about taxing unrealized gains, I don't think they really mean that. Just like they say about Trump, I don't think they really mean that. I think they're just saying they're going to hold wealthy people accountable and they're going to hold anyone that's engaging in corruption accountable. But I feel like, yeah, that kind of speaking is very useful. And the median voter loves it. They eat that kind of speaking up. Anyone that sounds like they're straight talking is going to be successful. And I mean, Democrats in general are just bad at it. I mean, I was watching Hakeem Jeffries talk, watching Kamala Harris talk. You could just tell when they go into robot politician mode.
yeah.
And like Trump's always in that mode, so it's not. It seems like it's genuinely him because he always has that really dumb rich guy voice on him, like the rich kid in the movie that you want to beat up. I'm so smart. I'm so powerful. Like that's literally the most aggravating voice in the world, but it's considered genuine for Trump and on brand. So somehow that really rich, pretentious, disgusting grind like that. Oh, you know what I'm talking about too. I don't even know what movie I'm thinking about, but it's like that rich kid that has that really annoying voice. And he had everything given to him in life, and now he's like bragging. And he's all snooty. Like Trump has that stereotypical voice, but he's able to make it appeal to the American people because the main thing is he doesn't relate to working class people. They didn't pick like a plumber or a pipe fitter or a I don't know an electrician to be their working class hero. They picked a reality TV star who is willing to just lie about immigration and lie about everything, like pretty much lie about immigration, lie about liberals, lie about gay people, lie about trans people. So there is a hunger, and I said I think in my video that you said you didn't get a chance to watch yet. I said you have to get people's hearts first. And if we want to change their minds, we need to get their hearts 100%. And I'm just trying to think of the most effective way to do that. And like, who do you say the biggest, like the Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman types? Can you think of any other? Like, I feel like their propaganda is so effective because they have these people who say they're centrists. Can you think of other podcasts like that? I'm trying to think of like why that's so effective. Like the Lex Friedman style, where it's so like he's obviously so biased, but he wears a suit and he has this presentation where it's like we are intellectuals here. Do you know what I'm talking about? That kind of style.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
Yeah.
mean, Dave Rubin's probably another one. Like again, they play the token so well. Like he's the guy that left the left because he's a classical liberal, and he's just asking questions, and he's also gay, and it. This is the problem, is that I think that there are a lot more people than we understand that are moderately conservative, but conservative enough that they don't want to be associated with liberals, and so but they also don't want to be associated with like the fucking psychotic people on the far right. So when they find someone who's like, okay, well, this guy doesn't sound as psychotic as the person that I'm thinking of, and they're also saying the same things. Okay, well, now I can get behind these ideas, and okay, I guess if Trump's saying these more than Kamala or Biden is, then I can, you know. I can agree with that and vote for Trump. So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's deceptive, but because I don't think anybody with an ounce of like who knows the story, I guess, doesn't know that Dave Rubin was on what TYT, and then he took a bunch of Coke money, and then not Coke COKE guys, not
Yeah.
like but like KOCH. Like he took a bunch of money and then he basically just started grifting for the right. He's been doing this for fucking years. Um, but like it's really it's difficult because like it requires a lack of principle to be able to engage that way. I know that Dave Rubin probably now believes what he did, but back in the day, I don't think he really did. I think he probably was just like, hey, I gotta like I can make this message happen. So the
Yeah, I
problem with the
agree.
left is that we have a much higher standard to not like again like like if someone asked me in a debate to like argue for a side I don't believe in, I don't like to do that. Partly because if like a bunch of people are watching and they think I agree with that, and I argue that point very well, I don't want them to be like convinced of a point that I don't believe in. So I don't like LARPing or saying something that I don't actually stand by. You don't
Yeah.
have that on the right. They don't have principles. At least if they do have principles, they set them aside because they think that the narrative is more important.
I guess
Because
too. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Destiny. If I'm gonna have someone like that who's unwilling to engage and like, oh, this is corruption and it's disgusting that they're manipulating, the working class. But he's also gonna be posting the memes about like, haha, this. Imagine the perfect relationship: a Trump supporter, a fireman, and a assassin or whatever. And wow, this is awesome. Haha, this is funny. Imagine going to a Trump rally and getting shot. That's hilarious. And then you want to say later, like, oh well, I didn't actually mean like that is a really bad thing. Um, like that kind of like I guess inability or not being committed to the mission enough to where you'll say something that's just popular, and also you're going to say something that's super unpopular that you also don't mean, but it's okay to say the thing that's unpopular that you don't mean because that's more
He
honest
can
because you can
he
explain it
can he can play it off as a
later.
joke. Yeah,
You can play it off as a joke. And also, if I'm talking about a campaign or even like a media enterprise, I'm looking at people who engage with these podcasts that are non-political. And many voters, many median voters, do not watch any political content. They might base their vote off of like 5 clips they see throughout the year. So if I have a media empire and I'm going to have a guy like that who is unwilling to stop doing this very disgusting commentary, and it's not even pro clutchy, it genuinely is like Corey being someone. These are all cult members. I don't blame cult members typically. I am mad that people believe really dumb stuff. I believe they believe it for really terrible reasons, dating back to the racism and sexism, whatever, of what's happening, and they believe like an objectively incomplete and untrue reality. Sure, but just projecting that is such a poison for the movement because you know damn well that the Republicans are going to sit there like, oh yeah, I'm a classical liberal centrist, and they're going to sit there and laugh. They're going to sit there and be like, huh, well, that's disgusting of you, and we're going to take the moral high ground. And I see people like this even at local school board meetings. They'll literally just come and talk about how, wow, the left is so mean to you guys. They're so mean, and we're here to welcome you in with open arms. And I think that's just playing into it. It's not the right type of being mean. It's like I don't know.
yeah, yeah. No, I think there's ways to adjust the message. Like again, you know, we we would hope that Destiny adjust the messaging if he's going to be in more of like an official capacity. I think he would. Um,
I hope
I
so, but it's
just
like how?
I think at the
Yeah,
but I don't think we should take away from the idea that like the decorum, the old style of doing things, the let's at the end of the day let's respect each other. Like this can't happen. Like this there still needs to be a level of you know a level of, I think there's a level of vitriol that we can engage in towards at least people who are on the right that shows that hey no we don't respect you, we'll engage in the debate civilly and we'll make our case as best as possible, but we cannot go back to the idea of treating like we can't go back to treating like the current Republican Party as if they're like the loyal opposition, because they're not. Like there might still be some holdouts in there that are like holding down the fort. I think McConnell is, surprisingly the one person I never thought I'd say anything good about, but I think McConnell does seem like he wants to like, hold back some of Trump's worst impulses and maybe use whatever power he has left to do so. But there needs to not be this, we can't just make claims about a person like Trump's a fascist, Trump's authoritarian, all that, like, and then just go back and say, okay, well, we're gonna like treat them nice at the end of the day. Like there needs to be some lack of disrespect that is warranted because the Republicans have lost that respect.
Yeah, and Abaddon in chat just said being the bigger man doesn't win elections, as we saw. I agree, but also being complete scum doesn't win them either. There's a decent balance you need to have.
Yeah,
And at least the people that were
that's
handling Trump made sure his message didn't completely go into the deep end. But it's like I don't need someone, and if that's Destiny's MO, if he's not motivated enough to engage in real politics, that's fine. But he claims he wants to all the time. Like officially be tied to a campaign, like that's a big deal. Like just Trump being shitty does not absolve everything. And there was no utility for Destiny to go on a vacation to Israel and to be making fun of Palestinians the entire time because he doesn't like Hasan. And if that's your internet debate, bro, if you're going to be living in that little kid world, that's completely fine. If you want to let Hasan pull down your movement and let Hasan pull down your audience and let Hasan ruin your messaging, and Palestinians are some of the most abused, that's one of the most abused population in human history, regardless of what you think the geopolitics are. Just making fun of that situation is abhorrent. It really is abhorrent. Those innocent people are not deciding to be in this conflict. And it doesn't sound good for the left or the right. There's no one that's being owned other than Hasan's community with stuff like that. And I know that's the ego battle that's constantly taking place, but I really, if we're going to be having all these, and this is only, and I know I'm going to be held to a different standard if I post this as a video, but we have these conversations about we have to take this seriously. We talked to Brian Tyler Cohen. We got to come together as left content creators, stop degrading each other. We have to focus on good messaging. And then on the other hand, Hasan's really like dumb and stuff. So like, it's okay if we engage with their community and do really
I
optically destructive stuff. It's like, are we going to be grown-ups at some point, or are we just going to stay in this realm? Because I'm like, I don't want to have the
I will
conversation about like being real about it if we're not going to be real about it. Like,
Yeah. I will say I think that Destiny said more than once that he thinks that we should excise the tanky crowd from the party, or like at least from the movement, which that may be there may be a better way to do it than just simply say like
yeah.
wash your hands of them, like just
Oh, and
completely
you know what?
denounce them
Destiny, when
because
he goes on these tours to Israel and makes fun of Palestinians and he's engaging with Hassan's content constantly, he's radicalizing more people to Hassan. He's radicalizing more of these
yeah.
young people on TikTok and on YouTube and Twitter. He's radicalizing them to be more like Hassan and to agree with Hassan's message. I completely agree. We need to get their movement to not be, heightened. But when the one person going against Hassan, number one, that's probably why Hassan talks about Destiny so much. It's because Destiny is an optical tool for Hassan. It's like getting people motivated to join the resistance. That's Destiny for Hasan. That's probably why he keeps on doing it. Because I know Hasan's a good manipulator, but like Destiny's falling right into his hands. So yeah, I agree. We need to stop giving them power. The same with like it's the same way. You don't react to
No,
them. You stop talking about them.
that's a fair
100%.
criticism. Yeah, it's fair criticism. I worry that if we try to get Destiny, if we try to rein him in too much, like I think that's a good criticism that like yeah, people will actually go to Hasan if they see Destiny being deranged in certain circumstances. But to clip his wings, so to speak, especially given that he is the one person that people like Piers Morgan and a bunch of other right wing content creators like continuously want to engage with. Like, there's something like unless they think that they look good by comparison because they don't actually understand how bad they're looking in debates with them. He is still making his way into like conversations with people that are in the political mainstream or in more of like the crossover of like the mainstream media and like the internet media or the
Yeah,
alternative media. So
I don't disagree.
he's an effective interlocutor when he isn't going full Nebraska Steve mode. Um, and so I think that these criticisms could be made to him in like a in a way that would say, hey, especially if you're going to be engaging in politics in an official capacity, like yeah, we do need to try and temper the message a little bit, or at least be more effective in how we're communicating it to people so that they don't get turned off.
I'm not. I'm also I'm also in a place where I'm not going to accept that a fully grown adult can't rein himself in for literally just like 2 topics. Don't make fun of the MAGA guy for being shot. Just don't make fun of it. If you want to talk about the messaging behind it, sure. You can explain why you don't care, but don't make fun of it. Okay? Don't go on a campaign making fun of Palestinians because Hasan can bait you so easily. Just drop those 2 things, okay? And you can be so much more effective. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna degrade him by saying he's not in control of his own actions to the point where I'm like, okay, keep every other edgy thing, but just like stop seeming inhuman, because he can be
Yeah.
so effective if he stops doing that, and he can still be edgy as shit. It's like I'm just asking for the bare minimum, and even Republicans, even just like most Republicans, if you say like Palestine, they'll probably say they want peace in the region. They don't want to see either side die. Like no one's cheering that stuff on. Democrats were not cheering for Corey to die. No one like this is the meme. So it's like, okay, grown ass man, just rein yourself in. 0.001%. I don't want to clip your wings, but just like 0.001%.
The way I deal
battles.
with conversations like this, and I think this is why people like Teague and other guys would be like, oh, you know what? At the end of the day, we disagree on stuff, but like you're easy to talk to. Is because like I match energy. Like if someone is being an absolute shit poster, I know how to do it back. And usually if I'm the second one to do it, I look good by comparison. I think if Destiny did more of like a match energy style and, still was, he still has his cadence. He still has the ways that he like goes through his arguments. And he's very good at analyzing when someone makes a mistake in their argument. But if he was just to like match energy, but otherwise be a little more civil in conversations with people, especially if it's also going to be something that hopefully will be seen by voters to sway them, like independent voters, then I think that's a good compromise.
Yeah, or just say the omni-liberal account's not him, it's someone else.
No, I think it's good.
No,
Unless
like
you got
this
some
is
other topic that
he has
oh, yeah,
he has a picture he just put up that says we taught this chimpanzee to understand the median voters' politics, and he hanged himself. Like that is a funny, edgy meme. That's a funny, edgy meme. That's fine. That's completely fine. Just don't make fun of the guy that got killed at the Trump rally, dude. Like Jesus.
Yeah, sure.
Honestly, the entire conversation comes down to stop being baited by Hasan. Like stop being baited to help Hasan. Like he's helping Hasan recruit people to being tankies.
Because like the next person they see after they see one thing that Destiny, they disagree with is like it could have been you. Like someone said, oh, I like Destiny until I saw you, or I found you because of Destiny. Like talking about you.
The last caller
that person didn't get sent by the algorithm to Hasan, and thankfully they didn't.
Yeah, and that person that just called me that sparked that video I put up, their first person they found was Destiny. And many Democrats have said that. Like Pelosi and Kamala didn't even go to see Netanyahu when he, came to Congress. At that point, imagine your first engagement with content is Hasan or Destiny, or you see a Destiny video, then you get recommended a Hasan video. And it's like, what kind of human being would make this joke about Palestinians? Like, if you look at what's happening there, like this is actually abhorrent. Not even abhorrent, but this is just like disgusting. Like, why would you make fun of this? Like, this is gross.